Your brain is lying to you right now. It's whispering that you don't have time for this, that you should check your phone, that this is just another motivational video you'll forget in an hour. And that's exactly why you need to hear what I'm about to tell you. Because your brain isn't your ally in becoming who you want to be. It's the enemy. And today, we're going to learn how to win the war against yourself. You're going to discover why your own mind sabotages your dreams and how to override its programming. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how to make your brain work for you instead of against you. Do you agree with that? Or does it sound completely wrong to you? If this resonates, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You're going to need the reminder. Picture this. It's 6 a.m. Your alarm cuts through the silence like a knife. You planned this moment the night before. You were going to wake up, hit the gym, start that project, finally do the thing you keep promising yourself you'll do. But as soon as consciousness creeps in, something else takes over. A voice, soft at first, then insistent. 5 more minutes, it says. You worked hard yesterday. You deserve rest. The gym will still be there later. And before you know it, you're negotiating with yourself. Just like that, the day is lost before it even begins. You know this moment. We all do. It's the space between intention and action where dreams go to die. It's the split second where your future self begs your present self to do the right thing, but something else wins. Something primitive. Something that doesn't care about your goals, your potential, or the person you're trying to become. Your brain. And it's been running this same program for thousands of years. But here's what nobody tells you about that voice. It's not lazy. It's not weak. It's actually incredibly sophisticated. It's your survival system, doing exactly what it was designed to do. Keeping you alive, keeping you safe, keeping you exactly where you are. Because to your brain, where you are right now is proof that you can survive. Why would it want you to change that? Think about your great-great-grandfather. He lived in a world where energy was precious, where every calorie burned could mean the difference between life and death. His brain rewarded him for conserving energy, for avoiding unnecessary risks, for staying with the tribe where it was safe. That same brain is sitting in your skull right now. But the world has changed. The brain hasn't. So when you decide to go to the gym, your brain translates that as unnecessary energy expenditure. When you want to start that business, your brain sees risk and uncertainty. When you try to wake up early, your brain interprets that as disrupting a proven survival pattern. It's not personal, it's just programming. Ancient programming that's completely out of sync with the life you're trying to build. Your ancestors survived by avoiding pain, seeking comfort, and following the path of least resistance. Those who took unnecessary risks often didn't make it long enough to pass on their genes. So here you are, carrying the DNA of the most risk-averse, comfort-seeking humans who ever lived. Congratulations, you're the descendant of champions of mediocrity. But here's the beautiful paradox. The same brain that's designed to keep you safe is also capable of incredible adaptation. It can learn, it can change, it can be reprogrammed. The question is, are you going to let it run on autopilot? Or are you going to take control of the machine? Look around you. Really look. How many people do you see who are truly alive? Who are pushing boundaries, taking risks, becoming more than they were yesterday? Not many. Most people are sleepwalking through life, slaves to a brain that's optimized for a world that no longer exists. They wake up tired, scroll through other people's lives, complain about their circumstances, and go to bed planning to change tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. Our grandfathers understood something we've forgotten. They knew that comfort was the enemy of growth. They didn't have the luxury of endless entertainment, infinite distractions, or the illusion that life owed them anything. They had work to do, families to feed, and challenges that demanded their full presence. Their brains were trained by necessity to embrace discomfort because discomfort was just life. But we live in a different world now, a world designed to make everything easy. Food delivered to your door, entertainment at your fingertips, climate-controlled environments, soft beds, constant stimulation. We've created a paradise for the primitive brain. And in doing so, we've created a hell for the human spirit. Because deep down, you know you're capable of more. You feel it in your bones. That restlessness, that dissatisfaction, that nagging sense that you're not living up to your potential. That's not depression. That's not anxiety. That's your soul trying to wake you up. It's the part of you that knows you were made for something bigger than scrolling, consuming, and complaining. But every time you feel that stirring, that call to action, your brain kicks in with its ancient programming. Stay safe, it whispers. Don't risk it. What if you fail? What if people judge you? What if it's harder than you think? And slowly, quietly, the fire dims. The dream gets smaller. The potential gets buried under layers of rationalization and excuses. Here's a moment that might sound familiar. You're sitting at your desk, staring at a screen, knowing you should be working on something important. But instead, you find yourself opening another tab, checking social media, reading the news, watching videos of people living the life you wish you had. Your brain tells you this is research, that you're learning, that you'll get to the real work in just a minute. But minutes become hours, and hours become days, and days become a life of perpetual preparation for a moment that never arrives. Or maybe it's the gym scenario. You drive past it on your way home from work. You see people inside, sweating, pushing themselves, becoming stronger. Part of you wants to join them, but your brain immediately starts the calculation. You don't have the right clothes. You don't know how to use the equipment. People will stare. You're too out of shape. You should wait until you're more prepared. So you drive past, again, and the gap between who you are and who you want to be grows a little wider. These moments happen dozens of times every day. Small decisions, tiny surrenders, little compromises that seem insignificant in isolation, but create the architecture of your life. Your brain wins each battle so quietly that you don't even realize you're at war. But you are. Every moment of every day, you're in a battle for your own life. And most of the time, you're losing. But what if I told you that recognizing this battle is the first step to winning it? What if I told you that your brain's resistance isn't a sign of weakness, but proof that you're onto something important? What if I told you that the voice trying to keep you small is actually showing you exactly where you need to go? Think about the last time you did something that scared you. Really scared you. The kind of scared that made your palms sweat and your heart race. The kind of scared that made your brain throw everything it had at you to make you stop. What happened after you did it? How did you feel? Most people, when they push through that wall of resistance, describe a feeling of aliveness they haven't experienced in years. Clarity, purpose, a sense of coming home to themselves. That feeling isn't an accident. It's your reward for overriding the programming. It's your brain's way of acknowledging that you've grown, that you've evolved, that you've become more than you were before. But here's the catch. That feeling doesn't last unless you keep earning it. Growth isn't a destination, it's a practice. And like any practice, it requires consistency, commitment, and the willingness to be uncomfortable. Your brain doesn't understand delayed gratification. It doesn't care about the person you could become next year. It only cares about this moment, right now, and whether you're safe, comfortable, and conserving energy. It's like having a 2-year-old in your head, demanding immediate satisfaction and throwing a tantrum whenever you ask it to wait or work for something better. But you're not 2 years old. You have a prefrontal cortex. You have the ability to think beyond the immediate moment, to envision a future, to make decisions based on long-term consequences rather than short-term impulses. The problem is that most people never learn to use this ability. They let the toddler brain run the show because it's easier, it's louder, and it never stops demanding attention. So here's where everything changes. Here's where you stop being a victim of your own mind and start being its master. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't theory. It's not positive thinking or wishful hoping. It's practical warfare. It's how to turn your brain from your biggest obstacle into your most powerful weapon. Pain is not your enemy. Read that again. Pain is not your enemy. This might be the most important thing you ever understand about human psychology. Your entire life, you've been conditioned to avoid pain, to run from discomfort, to seek the path of least resistance. And that conditioning is why you're stuck. Think about a muscle. How does it grow? Through resistance, through stress, through being pushed beyond its current capacity. When you lift a weight that's heavier than what your muscle can comfortably handle, tiny fibers tear. Your body recognizes this as damage and responds by rebuilding those fibers stronger than before. That's not theory. That's biology. Your mind works the same way. Every time you choose discomfort over comfort, difficulty over ease, resistance over surrender, you're tearing the weak fibers of your old identity and rebuilding stronger ones. But most people never discover this because they never stay in the discomfort long enough to experience the rebuilding. Instead, they feel the first hint of resistance and retreat. They feel the mental muscle starting to strain and immediately look for an exit. They've been trained to interpret discomfort as a stop sign instead of a green light, and that interpretation keeps them forever trapped in their current limitations. But what if you flipped the script? What if every time your brain said, "This is hard," you heard, "This is where I grow"? What if every time you felt that familiar resistance, that voice telling you to quit, to wait, to choose the easier path, you recognized it as confirmation that you're moving in the right direction? Here's something that might blow your mind. Every successful person you admire has the same brain you do, the same primitive programming, the same voice of resistance, the same tendency toward comfort and safety. The difference isn't that they don't hear the voice. The difference is their relationship with it. They've learned to recognize that voice as a liar. They've discovered that the brain's assessment of danger is usually wrong, that its predictions of failure are unreliable, and that its desire for immediate comfort is at odds with long-term success. So they've developed the skill of override. They've learned to act in spite of their feelings, not because of them. This is where most self-help gets it wrong. It tells you to think positive thoughts, to visualize success, to affirm your way to a better life. But thinking different thoughts doesn't change your brain's programming. Visualization doesn't override your survival instincts. Affirmations don't rewire your neural pathways. What does change your brain is repeated action in the face of resistance. Every time you do something your brain doesn't want you to do, you weaken its control over you. Every time you choose the harder path, despite the voice of doubt, you build your capacity to choose again. Every time you act like the person you want to become, instead of the person you currently are, you literally reshape your neural networks. But here's the crucial part that nobody talks about. This isn't a one-time decision. It's not a moment of inspiration that changes everything forever. It's a daily practice, a moment-by-moment choice, a continuous act of rebellion against your own programming. And that's why most people fail. They're looking for a magic moment instead of embracing a disciplined lifestyle. You wake up tomorrow morning, and the voice will be there. Sleep in. You deserve it. You can start Monday. And in that moment, in those first 3 seconds of consciousness, you have a choice. You can listen to the voice and prove once again that it controls you. Or you can move before your brain has time to build its case against action. 3 seconds. That's all you get. Because your brain is incredibly fast at building arguments for inaction. It can generate 1,000 reasons why today isn't the right day, why you're not ready, why you should wait for better circumstances. But it needs time to build that case. If you move within 3 seconds, you bypass the negotiation. You act before the resistance has time to organize itself. This isn't about motivation. Motivation is an emotion, and emotions are unreliable. They come and go like weather. You can't build a life on something as inconsistent as how you feel. This is about decision, about choosing who you want to be, and then acting like that person, regardless of what your brain suggests. The moment you wake up, before your feet hit the floor, your brain starts its assessment. It checks the temperature, evaluates your energy level, reviews your schedule, and begins building the case for why today should be different from yesterday. Why you should sleep in, why you should take it easy, why you should postpone the important things until you feel more ready. But what if you didn't give it that chance? What if the moment consciousness returned, you immediately began moving toward your predetermined goal? No negotiation, no internal debate, no consideration of how you feel or what would be more comfortable, just movement. Here's what happens when you do this consistently. Your brain starts to learn. It realizes that its voice of resistance is being ignored. It recognizes that its arguments for comfort and delay are falling on deaf ears. And slowly, reluctantly, it begins to adapt. The voice doesn't disappear, but it gets quieter. The resistance doesn't vanish, but it gets weaker. And what once required tremendous willpower starts to become automatic. This is neuroplasticity in action, your brain's ability to rewire itself based on repeated experience. Every time you override its programming, you weaken the old pathways and strengthen the new ones. Every time you act despite resistance, you make it easier to act despite resistance in the future. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you literally become a different person at the cellular level. But most people never experience this transformation because they never maintain the consistency required to trigger it. They try for a few days, feel the resistance, interpret it as evidence that change is too hard, and return to their old patterns. They never stay in the process long enough to see the process work. What you need isn't a perfect plan. You don't need the ideal circumstances or the perfect moment or complete confidence in your ability to succeed. What you need is one thing: a daily practice of voluntary discomfort. A ritual that teaches your brain that you're not afraid of resistance, that you're not controlled by impulses, that you're capable of choosing difficulty when difficulty serves your greater purpose. It doesn't matter what it is: cold shower, early wake-up, exercise you don't enjoy, work you've been avoiding, conversation you've been postponing. The specific activity is less important than the consistency and the intentional embrace of something your brain would prefer to avoid. This is your war room strategy. Every single day, you're going to do something hard on purpose, not because you have to, but because you're training your brain to obey your decisions instead of your impulses. You're teaching yourself that discomfort isn't dangerous, that resistance isn't a stop sign, and that you're stronger than your own excuses. But here's where it gets interesting. The goal isn't to complete the task. The goal is to become the type of person who does hard things. The push-ups aren't about building muscle. They're about building the identity of someone who doesn't negotiate with weakness. The cold shower isn't about temperature tolerance. It's about proving to yourself that you can do things you don't want to do. Most people focus on outcomes. They want to lose weight, make money, find love, achieve success. But outcomes are largely outside your control. What you can control is your daily practice, your moment-by-moment choices, your consistent actions regardless of how you feel. And when you shift your focus from outcomes to identity, everything changes. Instead of, "I want to be fit," you become, "I am someone who exercises daily." Instead of, "I want to be successful," you become, "I am someone who does difficult work consistently." Instead of, "I want to be disciplined," you become, "I am someone who acts according to my values instead of my impulses." This isn't semantic games. This is fundamental reprogramming. Your brain responds differently to identity statements than to goal statements. Goals feel optional, distant, dependent on external circumstances. Identity feels immediate, personal, non-negotiable. When you define yourself as someone who does hard things, doing hard things becomes consistent with who you are, instead of contrary to who you are. But identity isn't created through declaration. You can't just decide you're disciplined and expect your brain to believe you. Identity is created through evidence, through repeated action that proves to yourself who you really are. Every time you do something hard, when you don't feel like it, you collect evidence that you're the type of person who does hard things. Every time you act according to your principles instead of your impulses, you gather proof that you're someone who can be trusted to do what you say you'll do. Your brain is constantly updating its assessment of who you are based on what you do. Not what you say you'll do, not what you intend to do, not what you wish you could do, what you actually do. And if there's a mismatch between who you say you are and how you behave, your brain will always believe the behavior. This is why most people struggle with self-respect. Deep down, they know they're not living according to their stated values. They know they're making choices based on comfort instead of character. They know they're betraying their own potential day after day after day. And no amount of positive self-talk can overcome the evidence of their actions. But when you start acting like the person you want to become, something powerful happens. Your brain starts to align with your behavior. Your self-concept starts to match your actions. The gap between who you are and who you want to be begins to close. And instead of feeling like you're fighting against yourself, you start to feel like you're fighting for yourself. This is what it means to become a machine. Not a robot without feelings, but a human being whose actions are determined by decisions instead of emotions. Someone who has trained their brain to serve their values instead of their impulses. Someone who has developed the capacity to do what needs to be done, regardless of what they feel like doing. The process isn't comfortable. Growth never is. But there's a different kind of comfort that comes from knowing you can trust yourself. From knowing that when you make a commitment, you'll keep it. From knowing that when you set a goal, you'll do the work required to achieve it. From knowing that when life gets difficult, you'll get stronger instead of weaker. This is the comfort of competence, the peace that comes from knowing you're equal to whatever challenges life presents, the confidence that comes from having repeatedly proven to yourself that you're capable of more than you once believed possible. Most people live in a constant state of low-level anxiety because they don't trust themselves. They make promises they don't keep, set goals they don't pursue, and talk about changes they never make. Their own behavior teaches them that they're unreliable, undisciplined, and incapable of sustained effort. And this self-assessment colors everything they do. But when you start building evidence of your own capability, when you start proving to yourself that you can do hard things consistently, that anxiety transforms into anticipation. Instead of wondering if you're strong enough, you become curious about how strong you might become. Instead of doubting your ability to handle challenges, you start looking for challenges that will help you grow. Your brain, which once worked against you, becomes your greatest asset. It stops generating excuses and starts generating solutions. It stops focusing on what could go wrong and starts calculating what needs to go right. It stops protecting you from growth and starts supporting you in pursuing it. But this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen through a single heroic effort or a moment of inspiration. It happens through the accumulation of small victories, daily choices, and consistent action in the face of consistent resistance. Every morning, you wake up and the choice is there again. Listen to the voice that wants to keep you comfortable, safe, and small. Or override that voice and take one more step toward the person you're becoming. The choice is always there. The question is, what are you going to choose? And here's something beautiful about this process. The more you choose growth over comfort, the more you realize that comfort isn't actually comfortable. Staying the same becomes painful. Avoiding challenges becomes boring. Playing it safe becomes suffocating. What once felt like the easy path starts to feel like a prison. Because deep down, you know you're capable of more. You know you were made for something bigger than scrolling through other people's lives, complaining about your circumstances, and waiting for motivation to strike. You know you have gifts that are meant to be developed, challenges that are meant to be embraced, and a potential that's meant to be realized. But knowing isn't enough. Understanding isn't enough. Even wanting isn't enough. What matters is what you do next. What matters is whether you're going to close this video and return to the same patterns that brought you here, or whether you're going to use this moment as a turning point. Your brain is going to tell you that you can start tomorrow, that you need to prepare more, plan better, wait for the right circumstances. That voice is lying to you. It's trying to protect you by keeping you exactly where you are. Because where you are is familiar, and familiar feels safe, even when familiar is miserable. But you don't need permission to change. You don't need perfect circumstances or complete confidence. You don't need to feel ready or inspired or motivated. You just need to decide who you want to be and then start acting like that person. Right now, today, this moment, the person you want to become is waiting for you on the other side of your resistance. They're waiting for you to stop negotiating with weakness and start embracing strength. They're waiting for you to stop choosing comfort and start choosing growth. They're waiting for you to realize that the voice trying to keep you small is not your voice. It's just old programming that you can override anytime you choose. So let me ask you something. What's one thing you've been avoiding because it's hard? What's one action you could take today that would move you toward the person you want to become? What's one way you could prove to yourself that you're stronger than your excuses? Don't think about it too long. Your brain will try to complicate it, to make it bigger than it needs to be. to find reasons why today isn't the right day. Just pick something simple, something doable, something that would require you to override your default programming. And then do it, not because you feel like it, not because you're motivated, not because the circumstances are perfect. Do it because you're choosing to become someone who does hard things. Do it because you're tired of being controlled by a brain that's optimized for a world that no longer exists. Do it because the person you want to become is worth more than the temporary comfort of staying the same. This is your moment. This is your choice. This is your chance to step out of the endless cycle of planning, hoping, and waiting, and into the transformative practice of daily action despite daily resistance. Your old self dies today. The version of you that negotiates with weakness, that chooses comfort over growth, that lets fear make your decisions. That person served you once, but they can't take you where you want to go. It's time to let them go. From this moment forward, you are someone who does hard things, someone who acts according to their values instead of their impulses, someone who uses resistance as fuel instead of an excuse, someone who understands that the voice trying to keep you small is not the voice of wisdom, but the voice of limitation. You don't need to change everything at once. You don't need to become perfect overnight. You just need to start. You need to prove to yourself that you can override your brain's programming, that you can choose growth over comfort, that you can take one step toward the person you're becoming. And tomorrow, when that voice returns with all its familiar arguments, you'll have something you've never had before. Evidence, proof that you're capable of more than you once believed. Proof that you can do hard things. Proof that you're not controlled by impulses, emotions, or circumstances. That evidence will make the next choice easier, and the choice after that easier still. Until one day, you'll wake up and realize that the person you wanted to become isn't someone you're trying to be. It's who you are. The war against yourself ends when you stop fighting your potential and start fighting for it. When you stop letting your brain protect you from growth and start using it to pursue growth. When you stop being the victim of your own programming and start being the author of your own transformation. This is your declaration of independence from the voice of limitation. This is your commitment to daily action despite daily resistance. This is your choice to become someone who thrives under pressure instead of someone who wilts in its presence. The machine you're building isn't made of gears and circuits. It's made of daily choices, consistent actions, and the accumulated evidence of your own capability. It's made of moments when you chose growth over comfort, strength over weakness, action over hesitation. And once that machine is built, once that identity is established, once that evidence is collected, your brain stops being your enemy and becomes your ally. It stops generating excuses and starts generating solutions. It stops protecting you from challenges and starts preparing you for them. But that transformation starts with a single choice. The choice to do something hard today. The choice to act like the person you want to become instead of the person you currently are. The choice to prove to yourself that you're stronger than your excuses. Make that choice. Make it right now. Make it before your brain has time to build its case against action. Make it because the person you're becoming is worth more than the temporary comfort of staying the same. If this message found you at the right time, if it resonated with something deep inside you that knows you're capable of more, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because this is just the beginning. This is just the first day of who you're becoming. Until next time, and I'll see you in the next video that's going to appear right here on your screen.